Okay, this is an extra practice problem for Chapter 19. So we have a manufacturer specializing in motorcycle helmets. The company has enough order to keep the factory production at 1,000 units per month. And we're going to have a bunch of expense data given. We're going to break those into product costs, which we have product costs, we have direct costs, we have direct materials, we have direct labor, we have manufacturing overhead, and period costs. So we're going to set those columns up, and then we are going to calculate the total product cost, and then we're going to calculate the cost per unit. So you see here that I've got the product costs. So we have direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. And I have a column for period costs. So for each of these items, we're going to identify them as one or the other. So maintenance costs on the factory building of $1,500, that would be a product cost, and it is manufacturing overhead because you can't tie it to a specific unit. The factory manager's salary, because that can be allocated between different product lines, that would be overhead. Advertising is part of selling in general, so that's going to be a period cost. Sales commissions are part of selling in general, so that's going to be a period cost. Depreciation, because it's related to the factory, that's going to be a product cost and it'll be overhead. Rent on the factory equipment. So because it's on the factory equipment, it's going to be a product cost. And because we don't know where the equipment is specifically used, you can't tie it to a specific unit, it would be overhead. Insurance on the factory building, again, because it's related to the factory, it'll be a product cost, but you don't know which unit it applies to, it'll be overhead. Raw materials, those you can tie to a specific unit, so those will be direct material. Utility costs for the factory, because they're for the factory, they're a product cost, but they're not a direct unit, so they'll be overhead. Supplies for the general office, that's going to be a period cost because it doesn't have to do directly with the factory. Wages for assembly line workers, that's going to be direct labor. Depreciation on office equipment, that would be a period cost because it doesn't have to do with the factory. And then miscellaneous materials, and we're talking about glue and thread, that has to do with the production, so it would be overhead. So we're going to total these. So we have direct materials of 25,000, direct labor of 54,000, and overhead of 19,500. So these together would be our product costs, and this would be our general selling and administrative costs. So when we go to figure out the cost of the product, we're going to add direct materials, direct labor, and overhead. That gives us a product cost of $98,500. And if that's the cost of producing 1,000 helmets, we have a per unit cost of $98.50 per helmet.